YouTube.
Created invoices really quick, especially with job.
Put some background music here. Okay. Let's start today. All right, so I'm going to start with the passage I need to read. So today's passage is Matthew chapter 19, verses 1 to 12. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coasts of Judea beyond Jordan. And the great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, Have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Therefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. They say unto him, Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement to put her away? And he saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whosoever marrieth her which is put away doth commit adultery. His disciples say unto him, If the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. But he said unto them, All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. For there are some Eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some Eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. And there be Eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. So when I read this, I was wondering to myself, what is an Eunuch? Enoch is spelled Eunuch. And I Googled it, and Wikipedia's definition of an Eunuch is, an Eunuch is a male who has been castrated. Throughout history, castration often served a specific social function. The earliest records for intentional castration to produce eunuchs are from the Sumerian city of Lagash in the 2nd millennium BCE. Over the millennia since, they have performed a wide variety of functions in many different cultures. Courtiers or equivalent domestics for espionage or clandestine operations, concubines or sexual partners, religious specialists, soldiers, royal guards, government officials, and guardians of women or harem servants. Eunuchs would usually be servants or slaves who have been castrated to make them less threatening servants of a royal court where physical access to the ruler could yield great influence. Seemingly lowly domestic functions such as making the ruler's bed, bathing him, cutting his hair, carrying him in his litter, or even relaying messages could, in theory, give an eunuch the ruler's heir, and impart de facto power on the formerly humble but trusted servant. Similar instances are reflected in the humble origins and etymology of many high offices. Enoch supposedly did not generally have loyalties to the military, the, aristocracy, or a family of their own, having neither offspring nor in laws at the very least. They were thus seen as more trustworthy and less interested in establishing a private dynasty. Because their condition usually lowered their social status, they could also be easily replaced or killed without repercussion. In cultures that have both harems and eunuchs were sometimes used as harem servants. Eunuchs have been a harem servant is a male that is used to guard concubines, groups of women that were there for pleasure. Eunuchs have been documented in several ancient and medieval societies, including the Byzantine Empire, Imperial China, the Ottoman Empire, and various Middle Eastern cultures. They often held significant power and influence in those societies, particularly in royal courts and harems. So, an eunuch is basically a person who is castrated. His manhood, he's stripped of his manhood. What makes him powerful? Not necessarily his testosterone, but what makes him powerful, what makes him not want to put up with anything. His, I want to say virility, but I don't know if that's the correct word. He's basically stripped of his manhood in order to be less threatening, in order to be less interested in, like the text said, building power of his own. And he's stripped of everything. So he's stripped of, like it says, neither family nor in-laws. So this is someone who, even if they don't have their own family, they don't have a wife or in-laws, they have nothing. They strip them of everything. And I'm going to read the part about eunuchs again. It says, "For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb." There are some men who were not born strong. "And there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs by other men. And there are eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it." And that's Matthew 19, verse 12. So this talks about men being stripped of their power, men being castrated, men being weakened. So the message today, the situation that I look at is, well, first of all, before I start there, let me talk about the elements as I've seen and experienced of a destiny swap. A destiny swap involves isolating someone, putting someone in fear or panic, slander, creating self-sabotaging behaviors in a person, loss of all critical partnerships, loss of the ability to earn an income, terminal illness, public failure, 24/7 spiritual attack, and a handler that gives poor advice. And as I was looking at the situation that, someone here finds themselves in, it checks all the boxes of a destiny swap. There is isolation, there is fear and panic, there is public slander, there's a lot of self-sabotaging behavior, there is a loss of all critical partnerships, there is loss of the ability to earn, there is terminal illness, there is public failure, there is 24/7 spiritual attack, and there are handlers here that give poor advice. And they do all of this to you because when they start blocking you, they block you in such a way that you block yourself. And one of the biggest things that they do is they block communication between anybody, you and anybody that would give you advice that could help you. They block the flow of communication. This is the second time that I'm experiencing this, where I'm trying to tell someone what they're going through and what they're going to suffer as a result of not listening, of not heeding good advice. And so, you know, I've seen this before, how this plays out. So what's happened is the first loss was a critical divine partnership. So what people might call twin flames, this is something that God puts together, a divine partnership that basically allows you to feel another person, know what's going on with them, even without communication. It's a very deep telepathic communication, and that makes it a secure link. Like if you look at the way communications go, if you look at phone lines that could be tapped, a divine communication allows for a secure communication link that cannot be tapped into by other people or blocked by other people. So this is a gift that God gives. And what happens, what they do in a destiny swap is they put you through all of these things, they make you sabotage yourself, and then they steal your divine partnership. I remember that one reading that I read, it said, these are two energies that are too powerful alone, and they cannot afford for these two people to come into union because they have an inability to stop these people by themselves. So these are two energies that independently, spiritually, they don't have anything that can handle just one of them. So if the two came together, it would literally be too strong. So what they do is they create chaos, distraction, separation, and fighting. What might happen is perhaps they ask one to take a contract, and then they might have realized that the person who ended up holding the contract, is perhaps already too gifted, too strong. And so if they are too strong already and they're holding that contract and they have an ability to come into divine union, it would be too strong. So essentially what they've done is they've made an Eunuch of a godlike figure, a strong figure, something very strong. So they took the divine contract, they broke it, and the last thing to make it lose is to lose the contract itself, to lose the destiny contract itself, which is the last hope of survivorship in this. The contract allows for spiritual protection that no other entity can go around. But the protection cannot be in place from the outside. It must be from the inside. And if they can convince a person not to take on their spiritual protection, even especially not having the spiritual union that they're supposed to have, then they can complete the destiny swap and take everything from them. What happens is they put someone in these situations in a position where this person's purpose is to use their spiritual talents, gifts, and strengths to enrich another person. They put them to work in grueling situations where everything is siphoned from them. The results of the labor is siphoned from them. They castrate another person. And so listen, spiritual work is not easy. Spiritual work is not easy. Spiritual work is not easy. Spiritual work is so difficult because you have to bear the brunt of everything that you do, and you have to suffer the consequences of your own actions. And so giving somebody some type of advice to go get themselves possessed by an entity that is very pesky and difficult to control, an entity that constantly lashes out, is the highest form of self-sabotage that I've ever seen. So now you have someone who is fearful of good advice. They're fearful even to listen because they're scared of what they're hearing, because what they're hearing makes a little bit too much sense. It makes too much sense. Now, I understand, because the place the information is coming from is not good. Sorry, it's not that it's not good, but it's coming from, where there was a lot of fighting. And hold on, I'm trying to get that Wikipedia page back on. It's coming from a place where there was a lot of fighting. And so you can only imagine if there's been a whole bunch of fighting already and there's mistrust. Because in these contracts, if you want to attract something, you don't attract it with fighting. You want to attract something, you attract it with peacefulness, in a calm place, in a loving way. But when they encourage the fighting while in the contract, it breaks the contract. It puts the contract in violation of itself. So I don't know if these efforts for sabotage were on purpose, if it was premeditated or not, but the result is the same. The result is that there's been sabotage of something that someone should have been stepping into and taking a hold of. So you pretty much have, listen, that live I did yesterday, it became uncomfortable. Like, I wanted to stop reading, because what I read about Seth was, it's like anybody listening who knows what's going on here, anybody listening who knows this energy knows that this was an exact description. This is an energy that doesn't stop fighting. That's exactly how this person would behave. They would just keep fighting. It would just keep going. So everything hit the mark. And from the very onset, the mission was to not complete the destiny of not just coming here and waking just anybody up, but not coming here and waking up the energy that shouldn't be where they are. Accepting that means that you have to accept that these energies around you were working against you the entire time. And it wasn't you working against other people, it's been you working against yourself and castrating yourself almost, with allowing people to divide something. Had there been no fighting, that contract, I would have probably been in breach of it, to be honest with you. I would have been in breach of it, because I would have been the one that wouldn't have wanted to see it through. But the way it played out, it just played out as self-sabotage. So that is just like the message that I have. There isn't like much more to it. This is the second time I'm seeing this. You don't learn by just trusting what a person says. You learn by investigating it, sitting back, replaying events, walking yourself back. And I just feel like, well, not that I feel like, I have no choice. This is my job, is to wake someone up and say, they're destiny swapping you. They're taking from you what is yours. That's why when I say stuff like that, you hear the animals behave like that. And this is a destiny swap if I've ever seen one. They've taken a person that was strong, put them in a position of contention, put them in a position where they're not in communication with the person that is going to wake them up, the person that is going to make them see their true power, that is going to make them see themselves. Everything that was done here was done by their own hand, full speed forward. And like I said, the definition of an Eunuch is someone who they castrate, so that this person, because of their proximity to power, this person doesn't get power hungry, or this person doesn't ever see themselves as who and what they really are. So I'm not asking anyone to take my word for it. Just investigate it, think about it, rationalize it, without the advice or the input of anyone else. Because we all have the ability to reason for ourselves. I reason for myself. I always reason for myself. I always think for myself. And I do so because I don't like people influencing my decisions. I don't like people giving me poor advice, because I've been through that. I've experienced it. Even the best meaning people, or the people who pretend to mean the best for you, sometimes it's not that they don't mean the best for you. Sometimes it's just that they're self-serving. And you have to understand from a spiritual perspective that your enemies in the spirit manifest themselves as enemies in the physical. And in this life, in this role, your enemies are not isolated from you. They want to be close. They want to be as close as possible so that they can give the advice. There's been, for a long time, there's been a request of us to have peace and to stop fighting. And when the dust settles long enough, you actually start realizing you have to take your hands off the trigger long enough to realize what you're forfeiting. Because these are two very powerful energies. These are two energies that independently are very strong. So this is all I can say. Like, there is not much more expounding to do on this, because what more can be said? It's like cut and clear. It's like it's undeniable. It's undeniable that this is what's happened here, is that someone was in possession of something that would be enviable to anyone. Even now, when you look at the logical explanation of the situation and you say, look, we're in a situation right now, this is the best way forward. And someone would forfeit the best way forward, the safest way forward, to remain and do something like this is insane. It's crazy. I've never seen anything crazier that someone could justify. I don't know how they're justifying in themselves to stay here, because this is a ticking time bomb. This is gonna fall apart. There's no way. And attacking the energy that was sent to protect you, to get you out, is crazy. It's also crazy. All that this fight was supposed to do is take a person's shackles off so that they could fly. Is take their shackles off long enough, take their blinders off long enough so that they can see themselves and that they can walk into what belongs to them. They're in something and they need to clean their energy of the thing that they're in. And cleaning your energy is just denouncing it and inviting the Holy Spirit in so that you can be strong enough to heal completely and walk into your purpose. They already stole the contract from you by making you self-sabotage. And now you're gonna lose the contract itself. You've lost your position, you've lost everything because of the advice that they keep giving, what they keep telling you to do. Do this, do that. Every time you do something, every advice gets worse and worse and worse, because the last piece of information, the last piece of advice, I don't know if this was advice or I don't know if this was an idea, that I think is the worst one that I've heard yet. Because that one, if that had happened, the amount of noise that I would have made, the way I would have made this such a loud thing, would just be self-sabotage again. Because the institutions, they have the ability to reverse the thing, but it just shows proof and evidence. It would have launched an investigation, and it would have been proof and evidence that would have basically taken a person's freedom. Someone is in a divine contract that would give them protection and power that they refuse to activate. That's just what's happening here. There's nothing else happening, but someone is refusing power. They're refusing kingship. They're clinging to the past, what was. They don't believe what's in front of them. Perhaps it's too painful, because stepping into your North Node really means getting rid of everything and everyone, and getting rid of an entity that pretends to help, getting rid of friends, getting rid of old lovers, getting rid of all of that. It's a soul wound, it's painful, it hurts at the core. The problem with not getting rid of it, the problem with keeping it, is that they're all handlers. They're all handlers. The entity is handling from the inside. The entity is constantly fighting the inevitable. So one must adjust their thinking, accept the truth, do your own investigation. A person who knows how this thing goes, if they know how this thing goes, anybody who is wise is going to say, well, if this person takes on this, then how do we control this person? And you look at the difference between your life. They make you blame the wrong person. I was the one that was attacked, so I have to protect myself. But the whole time they kept saying, stop fighting, stop fighting, stop fighting. So anyway, that is all that I have to say. Let me see if I get this. Well, actually, let me see this one. That's all I can say. Today's live is very, very, very short, because it just is what it is. I'm supposed to think a little bit more clearly. I don't know, the card that I have here, it says wisdom is the abstract of the past, but beauty is the promise of the future. Right now, there is no future. Destiny swaps take everything from you and they leave you with nothing. So they already took essentially almost everything. And then at the end of it, it's like they want to take a person's life and a person's freedom. And every action that's all it's leading to. It's taking a person's freedom. It's taking a person's freedom away from them. And that's what it's going to come down to. And it's very painful to watch. It's painful to watch. It's the second time I'm watching it, that someone goes through a destiny swap and they lose the most important thing that they could have ever had in this lifetime or the next or anyone after that. This is the most important thing, the most precious thing that they could have. So you have to sit back and analyze what makes sense, because it's not about what people tell you, it's about the evidence in front of you. Are the signs with you? Is the evidence with you? And when people talk poorly about other people to you, oh, this person's ugly, they're evil, they're this, they're that, they're whatever, they came in with a story already about how horrible this person was, and they make you join in on it. You lose yourself, you go crazy, all of these things happen. They steal from you, and when they're done stealing all of it and making you two enemies, and I'm sure the people here have seen this before, they make enemies of you, and who you're not supposed to be an enemy to, your helper. And when they're done doing all of that, you're the one that has lost. You're the one that is out. So anyway, that is my message of the day. Today it's short because there is no point in dragging it out. Let me see if I get a spirit messages card. There's these other cards that are more like warning cards. So this one says, look past what you feel are your incapabilities. Instead, focus on everything you have achieved so far. It is okay to acknowledge your weaknesses, but keep in mind that they don't define you. Your strength and beautiful soul are clear for all to see. So that is my message for today. I'm going to keep it very short. Have a great day, folks.